Hello, and a very big welcome to everybody joining me today. Today, we are going to be looking at a subject that is so rich in lore and theories and world building that this iceberg, it's not even going to begin to cover all of it. Some of these iceberg entries are made with the help of other Redditors' thoughts and theories, as well as ideas of my own that I feel can be interwoven into these ideas to create an idea with multiple minds in it. As for the actual entry and how it's going to go, I'm going to be doing deep dives on each of these entries, so posting in individual layers will give me enough luxury to give as much info as I can, because I will be giving information, details, and summary-like descriptions for information to be relevant and make sense to bells and whistles alike. I'll be explaining less and less of minuscule details and events, such as names and who they are, relics, etc. And of course, you guys are here to help to fill in any gaps, any pages, anything I probably am gonna miss. But I really hope everyone enjoys this. Thank you, and on to the iceberg. So, Made in Abyss is an action-adventure Ghibli-esque styled anime, starting off in a city built around the edge of the abyss, a place called Orth. In the city, we follow a young, ambitious daughter of legendary white whistle holder, Lyza the Annihilator, during a cave raid in which Rico makes the biggest discovery of the abyss pretty much ever, a supreme treasure of the netherworld, in Albad, in the form of an android-like young boy named Reg, sparking the idea of bringing him to the orphanage. And with a sudden return of Liza's white whistle in a notebook, a singular piece of paper claiming to be waiting for them, Rico and Reg follow the star compass and get ready to follow the path forged by mysteries and longing. Relics, souls, unexplained curses and creatures, and humans ready to attack instinctually, with the worst of the abyss yet to manifest itself in the unlikeliest of places. The whole Ghibli thing, I really do think that's very inspired. I feel like, especially over there, that kind of animation is seen as kind of like into something like popular like that, right? I mean, everybody's got an art style. Naruto has his own art style, but it culminates into something wonderful. I get done watching the show and I want to get right back into it. Anyway, next entry. The Abyss. In the southern ocean of Beluska lies an anomaly of nature, a chasm that gapes wide enough for its ecosystem to be visible and studied by the inhabitants of its city, Orth, for over 1900 years. The city on the edge of the abyss, a sprawling, expansive city that has utilized every inch of top ground of the abyss. Generations of mapping out the abyss have given raiders a clean and intriguing look into the world below. For example, the fauna here, they have adapted to their individual layers and the mutations that form around the environment around them to be stronger, to be faster, even smarter at times than the worst of what humans are capable of. Biomes of sprawling waterfalls and cliffs larger than skyscrapers. An upside-down forest with a perpetual storm. Down to a fossilized sea of corpses descending to one of its last treasures. Each layer is different by design and culture, as Orth, including Rico, set off to discover its mysteries. Layer 1, Entry 1, Art and Official Soundtrack. Okay, so some of you may be thinking why this was added onto the iceberg at all, but honestly, when we take a look at it, it's rather interesting. A Studio Ghibli-esque type of feel, but very inspired by kind of like a Dark Souls and Bloodborne. But that Bloodborne and Dark Souls isn't really delved into much until like the middle of like the first season. So get this. So a lot of people like me were probably lured in with the sweet taste of adventure and a mysterious chasm, only to be shanked right in the gut. Next thing you know, you're just watching people eat babies, and it's fine. You're just like, yeah. As for the soundtrack, I mean, go on any forum about Made in Abyss, and you'll see that Kevin Penkin is top of his game, master at his art. Growing up listening to video game soundtracks, finally getting into some work with Kinema Citrus, collaborating on Nor 9 and Under the Dog. Then, the stars aligned just right with Tsukushi and Penkin, bringing to life a world that breathes and surrounds our characters. Made in Abyss. I'm telling you, go on the search bar, and type in any one of his songs. Banger after banger after banger. It's so good. Manga. Made in Abyss, aka Hello Abyss, written and illustrated by the very talented Akihito Tsukushi, first popping up and getting published under the Takishobo on a webcomic Gamma site in October of 2012. I sincerely apologize because I probably butchered the hell out of all those words. But in 2017, 7 Seas Entertainment revealed that they were going to begin to start pumping out translated volumes, and as of 2020, over 3 million total copies are in circulation. At first, it was not popular. It was not popular. People did not have any gravitation toward it. There was no traction at all. And then Tsukushi was suggested by his editor and his editing team saying, hey man, you gotta, like, people are really into like this gore stuff and into like this extreme intense situations, And so he did that. And of course, Nanachi, which pretty much saved Made in Abyss, that's a whole other thing, but yeah, we'll get into that. But anyway, anime. So after getting the anime released, its popularity pretty much blew up underground, first releasing in July and ending its first season in September of the year 2017. And then, bam! A couple recap videos that I have not watched, but both all the way in January of 2019. To the most egregious but wonderful anime films I've ever watched. Dawn of the Deep Soul. Great film. I would highly, highly, highly recommend to any anime lover. Just dip your toes in a little. There's a lot of lore, more and more questions, and some of them are even answered. But all this was to get us ready for the most complicated, beautiful, and satisfying storytelling with his second season, The Golden City of the Scorching Sun. Filled with wonderful world building and a heavy theme-driven plot, as is Made in Abyss, that is narratively connected to his second group in the past, whose mistakes and choices accumulate to a thread that Rico Gang are forced to face head-on. So yeah, Season 2, crazy. Season 2 was absolutely crazy. It's so good. Like when I go and rewatch Made in Abyss, Season 2, I always go back, I just watch that. Season 1 is good, the build-up is good, but if I'm gonna go back and watch Season 1, I have to watch all of it all the way through, otherwise it's like I'm missing something. Video game. So, Made in Abyss, Binary Star, Falling into Darkness. This game was developed by Spike Chunsoft and was released on the Switch, the PlayStation, as well as Steam in September of 2022. So, yes, Made in Abyss did take the route of expansion and turn the already video game inspired concept kind of feel and the perfect world building into something of a non-canon spin-off with relics and even creatures being present in game that are not referred to at all in the universe of the anime or the mangas, such as guns or bows or charms. I guess charms, you could say, like, there might be a relic out there that gives you like good luck or whatever, but not charms like there are in the game. Creatures like Mantoyer and Headtails. Now this is all excluding relics, because there are relics that act like guns, ones that act like laser cannons, and even squishy-lipped ones. I'm talking like regular guns. You put a bullet in it and you shoot it. There's a mechanism. But for a transition into the world of video games does make sense in my opinion. Just that the critics had issues with the gameplay, the mechanics, and the overall kind of janky feel that the game was put out with. There are a bunch of Reddit posts, a bunch of forum posts, as well as straight up reviews from pretty well-known names in the community, like Fright Ranker, making a review that pretty much sums up how I think any fan would feel about the game. Also, my opinion, yeah, $60 is way too fucking high of a price for a game like this. If you can get it on sale or something and you're a fan, buy it immediately. It's what I did. But for a full AAA priced game, it's dull. It doesn't have any of the things that you would want, especially seeing that it was, $60. You expect games. I guess not. I guess not nowadays, right? Because fucking look at fucking Gollum. That shit sucks. Side note though, if you guys want to deep dive into any of these subjects separately, let me know. Obviously, I set priority. From Star Strings. From Star Strings is Tsukushi's debut manga, released in 2011. This story follows a young girl alone on a planet with only the memories of her name and the heart to survive, wandering aimlessly for days. Eventually, an event that would change her life forever. A string suddenly appears on the barren planet, and the only sight of light. Soon, it starts to reverberate, and with it the thoughts in her head as well. With the rest of her strength, she readies to climb into the unknown. That's the basic summary of, like, basic bare bones of From Starstrings. I'm not gonna spill the whole thing here. Go and read it. It's not super long. It's pretty cool, actually, and it really captures the wonderment of Made in Abyss. You know, like that feeling of amazement. Like, Made in Abyss, honestly, is really, really cool because when you first watch it, when you first look into it, it is kind of like through the eyes of a child, right? Everything is amazing. Everything's bright. Everything's colorful. Everything looks cool. The deeper you go, the more you realize, you know, growing up sucks. Okay, so finally getting into lore and stuff about the actual show. I'm sorry, but for people just getting into this fandom, I want to catch everybody up as much as I can. This, right now, is where we start diving into the depths of the first layer, Clawbot. So, Clawbot is the Reg-like figure shown in Lyza's notes in the beginning of the series. At first, it does seem to be a drawing of Reg, but on closer inspection, this figure indeed does have different features. Long hair, white face markings instead of Reg's red, which in my opinion could probably be used for like ranking, like a ranking system. As well as both of their displays, like their helmet where it displays like the number of shots, and their horns on their helmets being in different positions and shapes completely. Lastly, the defining feature that branded the fan name, you know, Clawbot, her claws. But now there are a ton of theories surrounding Clawbot and her significance, but like most theories in the fandom, there's only a handful that are well put together enough to logically become headcanon for a time, such as her being a guard of sorts for the Golden City and having to stop Reg from ascending up, meeting Lyza as he is proof of the Golden City and its residents. Even a comment made by Reddit user the main _ ingredient, he innocently spitballing that Lyza's soul could be in Clawbot and that the damages occurred are merely from training and not in a fight between layers. But we'll be going more in depth in some of these the deeper down we go. Reg buried Lyza's whistle. So I'm not gonna lie, this theory, I don't understand what he was trying to say. I don't know if this was a meme, I got trolled, but I don't understand the significance of this. You guys can help me out with this. The theory's a little vague, okay? It has a couple implications we can take from it. So the claim is that there is a correlation between Reg ascending to the surface and Lyza's whistle making it back up, along with Reg's flashbacks of her grave in the 4th layer during the part where he's cleaning Riko's shorts, her pants. This would imply that Lyza had already made it past the 6th layer if she no longer needed her whistle, right? And Blaze Reap at that fact, right? Getting onto this with a theory of Reg's incinerator collecting the souls affected by it, right? So he shoots something and doesn't only disintegrate it, his soul. Perhaps Lyza and Reg were in a situation where they're called to kill Lyza and collect her soul and have it placed into a true resident, into an Albad of Reg's kind. Only good one, right? The question as to why is plentiful offhand, but like most things here, it's all just speculation. Dependent. So from here on out, there are going to be parts of the iceberg that have relevant information before going into anything, and that's for Bells to be able to get through it and understand what is going on if it is their first time jumping in. I don't want to be an asshole and push anybody out who wants to come in. I want to accept everybody, even if you're just coming here to talk shit. So, relevant information for this upcoming entry is relics, and a relic in this case is thought of being an artifact, ranging from tools like Tomorrow Signal, a weather-controlling weather vane, all the way to powerful enhancements like 1,000-man pins, where a single one embedded into your body will give you the vigor of 1,000 men. Every single one of these originates from an older civilization, whether these artifacts were designed for invading or defending other countries, or just research into their own unique technology. That can only be theorized, but it's further put into question with relics with extreme and opposite spectrums of utility, such as the blue pendant. The blue pendant is definitely strange, right? It's a blue diamond-shaped necklace with the middle, in my opinion, resembling the tree behind Hoblog in the Umbrahan over in, I think it's volume 63 or something. And not much else is known about it, seriously. Not much is known, not much is seen, not much is even hinted at throughout the series. I consider this to be a relic, as Sakushi has said himself that the pendant is an important item, so I think any detail and inferences that we can make out of it, relevant or not, should be pointed out regardless. Gold Shaker and the blue pendant, where here we can see the tool and ornament side of these relics, Any advanced technology here is lost or merely just it cannot be understood by us, but is put into further question as to what and why would an advanced society consider these significant enough to produce. Quick note, Gold Shaker, a dust collecting pot, in the mantra of in the golden city even dust can turn into gold. It's pretty curious, don't you think? Irumyuui's 3 wishes. Relevant information. So, the Ganja Corps. A Ganja Corps is a suicide squad of seafaring outcasts led by the 3 sages, Wazukan, Voiko, and Belafu, with the objective of finding the Abyss and the elusive Golden City. Wazukan, taking more of a leader role in the squad, Wazukan is a laid-back, caring, optimistic, and arguably utilitarian individual. So much so he ate rats and bugs in the bottom of their ship to prevent disease. Probably due to his ability of clairvoyance, as these visions were not just inferred guesses and have been seen by those of and not part of Ganja. Slowly losing himself in the abyss, however, and seeing these visions of paradise only to slowly drop back to reality with the real horrors of his team in the future. In his state of mind, Wazukan convinces himself that the only way for survival was to be willing to sacrifice Irumyuui and himself, with the use and knowledge of how the cradle would affect him, for his squad and the chance to, one day continue their adventure. Now Narahate, and one of the leaders in Uruburu, he watches over the city and its populace, having a deep connection with the city and its people, as raiders of all kinds, as long as their worth was strong enough, returned home with welcome arms. Belaf. So Belaf is a confident, firm but very insightful man, with ambitions so strong that Belaf is willing to sacrifice himself to achieve his goals, but never others. As the squad invited the parasites into their bodies, more and more of them began to fall victim to its horrific side effects. Belaf soon too succumbing to this pseudo-water. Belaf soon returns to normal, thanks, I guess, to Wazukan, giving him special soup medicine. Finally disgusted by his and his team's helpless choice to live in a morally gray area that the Abyss thrives on, he soon becomes catatonic, completely broken by the events he's had to witness and endure. Near the end, he needs to be carried to Uruburu, finally sacrificing himself firstly to Irumyuui. Over his remorse of what the Abyss has forced them into, he changes form into the hollow version of himself, a husk of the man he once was, now living a somewhat peaceful life in Uruburu as one of the 3 sages, only to be bound by his memories, and ironically, find a home as peaceful as a death he thought he deserved. Voiko. So Voiko is a shy, insecure young woman that was lucky enough to inherit the star compass, along with a heart too big for the sexual abuse that she's had to endure as a child. Alone and rejected by the world, Voiko finds family in Ganja and a home in Irumyuui. At the end, Voiko is absolutely distraught by her adoptive daughter being malformed and tortured in front of her. Choosing to end the story where she stands, she attempts to jump off a cliff. Wazukan catches her, but far from saving, giving her the privilege of being the closest to Irumyuui, her head. Reading the consciousness of the villagers of Uruburu, and Irumyuui herself lives on, confined, surrounded by the souls of the lost children taken by necessity. Irumyuui, a young girl, part of a tribe that imitate the true residents with markings on their face and sacrificing women and children that are infertile. Quickly rejected for damages done by her brothers, she runs away with Ganja crew and quickly trauma bonds with Voiko over infertility and their shared abuse. All but Voiko, Wazukan, and some scragglers lucky enough to evade the parasite, they all have but one final hope, the Cradle of Desire. Irumyuui receives the relic in a sick state, wakes up absolutely fine, only to later receive a physical change in her body, slowly growing out and upwards in a fleshy pink mass of living flesh, destined to constantly give birth to hermit rat-inspired babies with no proper way to consume and digest food for nutrients. Whether it be divine prophecy or the actions of Wazukan himself, he starts to take these deformed hermit rat creatures and starts cooking them, eating them, feeding them to the rest of his crew, only to later discover that this soup was medicine. It was alleviating the symptoms of the pseudo-water, but child after child taken from Irumyuui, she starts to grow. She starts to grow with hate, anger. After the crying turned to hate, she left. Irumyuui, destined to the abyss since birth, leads the crew as close as she possibly can get to the edge of the 6th layer and plants herself to finally become one with the abyss. morphing and stretching. She opens up to Ganja, and as each one steps in, they become Narahate. And as each one steps in, they are given a home, becoming one with the city. While Irumyuui uses the second cradle to fulfill her last desire, revenge, manifesting itself in the physical form of Faputa. Faputa is the last child born from Irumyuui and the embodiment of value, created and formed from the cradles of desire and Irumyuui's fears and hopes. Faputa's one goal is to destroy the city and finally bring peace to her mother. Cradle of Desire. The Cradle of Desire, aka the Wishing Egg, is a relic that grants the user's greatest desire. It's said by interference units that this is best for children to use this relic, as their pure thoughts and feelings are ones that are especially close to the primordial, whatever that means. Like, I understand what the word primordial means, but in the context, he's saying it as if like a Lovecraftian entity or something, right? Like the primordial, the thing that started it, right? The ring or whatever it is, you know? Irumyuui's 3 wishes theory. So this one is a bit tricky. What I noticed when watching, Irumyuui is just a child who happened to get assaulted and then shamed for the infertility that was forced on her, right? She's been pushed her whole life that is why she is here. Babies, the abyss, true residents. She got kicked out of that life. She grew up to a certain age thinking that all this was going to be all fine and dandy, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, nobody wants her. Nobody wants her, right? She's been pushed around her whole life. Kicked out of that life, she finds family in the Ganja squad. And more importantly, finds a mother figure in Vueko, who is able to immediately connect with Irumyuui, knowing exactly how it feels to feel worthless. The parasites settle into their new hosts and start to consume them. However, Irumyuui is given the cradle, and some of the things noticed by a lot of people is that the babies do look like the hermit rat thing that got killed, but that the babies also heal her new family and slowly transform her into something Lovecraftian. Maybe just growing up around the abyss, knowing how brutal and unforgiving it is, wanted that family that she got forever. I mean, look at the intros to season 2. You see Ganja actually enjoying their time in the depths. They're running through flowers, they're finding cute animals, they're bonding and connecting, all of them together. They're building a family. Irumyuui had achieved the one thing that rejected her first, only for the abyss to once again slowly take her new Haku. Anyone, I think, but especially a child, would feel incomplete without these people that had just entered her life in such a moment of change, right? No coping, just taking the nature of the abyss straight to the heart, right? So my idea, 1 egg, 3 wishes, 3 wishes combine it into 1 with the power of the cradle. So she loses her biofan because of infertility, absolutely rejected, feeling worthless. Irumyuui's desires influences the wish, making the first of the combination of 3 easy to see. Fertility, right? I feel like that was obvious. And probably due to grief, these children birthed are these deformed, doomed to die, hermit rat pet things with the strange ability to cure pseudo symptoms, giving us the second piece of the wish, the cure. Unlike quoted before, I would say that Irumyuui's desires are not refined in the way that is intended for the cradle. Likewise, we can infer that her fear must also be out of balance, right? Needing her new family or being scared that the rest of them would be taken out in an identical way, the third and final piece of the wish takes its form. Physically, home, family, as she is slowly transformed into an enormous, fleshy structure that happens to be a village, later known as a Rubaru, and the second egg being nested in the city itself to be used for the manifestation of the hate and desire that Irumyuui had against Wazukan especially. The third and last egg being used was used by Wazukan. So, I mean, it has really good implications. I think I do stand on my idea on the fact that the wish was divided into 1 egg, into 1 kind of wish, conjoined it into 1 thing, because her fears and her desires were not refined. It was, my family left me, I'm sad, I'm worthless, I want to be worth something, I want to have a kid, and then it was just 1 thing after another after another. It's like, how far can you go? The abyss is alive. relevant information. So Edo Front is originally the ruins of a sacrificial site where a ritual to either receive a white whistle or the blessing of some kind was performed to descend into the capital of the Unreturned, the 6th layer. Currently acting as a research base of the White Whistle Bondrewd, who himself acts as an MC for the Lion-Hearted Raiders, willing to take their final dive. So in my opinion, the theories and topics get a lot more interesting here on out. I have a lot more ideas about a bunch of these. As the title suggests for this theory, it claims that the Abyss is an organism. I think the Abyss being a Lovecraftian entity is much more interesting and plausible. Perhaps human interaction was always intended, right? It wasn't just a natural cave. What if this wasn't just a natural phenomenon? This is something that's been built. Throughout this series and its adaptations, there are points where it would seem to suggest so. Of any sort of what you would call speculative evidence, to me, is Irumyuui, Uruburu. I think Uruburu is a one-for-one of how the Abyss and its system works, with the use of value and the accumulation of souls. So, like, say the value of cave raiders gets eaten every 2,000 years. The accumulation of value of these raiders going down and dying, giving their soul to the Abyss, blah, 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 whatever, for 2,000 years is all it needs, right? Orth and its people coming down are its source of nourishment, and the relics are the end result, right? They come in, because that's what I think. I think the Abyss takes the value, and depending on the value of the person or the thing or what you've done, it turns you into a certain relic. It turns you into, you know, a hollow. I think the hollow thing is a lot more complicated, but the relics are the end result, right? And these souls manifest it. They manifest the Abyss itself, right? These souls, the accumulation, is what is building up the Abyss. If the Abyss is alive, it would explain a pattern of destruction with and around it, like the pirate ship and the Great Fault, or even Edo Front. Right? What the hell is Edo Front doing over there? It looks like a goddamn city, a spinning city that makes its own power. That's crazy. So let's say Y2K hits, right? Some catastrophe strikes and migration is forced on the entity. Maybe moving around, collecting or creating other animals and plants, you know, building up the symbiotic relationship would suggest the Abyss is conscious in some form. I mean, look at the curse and how it's explained to us in Rake, how it's talked about. These ecosystems specifically are immune, or having adapted survival skills to overcome the curse. These relics would just be bait. I mean, think about it. A giant hole. You are a giant hole with a bunch of stuff to take. You're just gonna plop yourself down in the middle of whatever ocean, and whoever comes around it, dude, you've got food forever. Because then they're just gonna want to keep going down. Then, you know, something like Ray comes out, right? Rumors of Ray comes out overseas or something. People are gonna go out in the ocean and try looking for it. People are already trying to look for it. So you're a giant hole with a bunch of stuff to take. Yeah, that's gonna trigger something in our heads, right? The hunger we have for knowledge, the hunger we have for power, and of course the curiosity we have as human beings. What better way to have them come in than to set yourself up randomly and just be like, yo, it's a buffet. Come get what you can get. Let human greed take them out. But anyway, thank you guys so much. I'm currently working on the rest of this. The theories and subjects here start to get a lot deeper, and the conversations and topics get a lot more interesting. Let me know what you guys think about the relevant information thing. I've been having really second thoughts about it, because I want people who don't know the show and the manga to come in here and be able to hang out with us, you know, and talk to us about stuff. If I'm talking about something, I want somebody from another place to come and tune in and have a conversation and have some input in it, right? Because that's how we get places, right? Singing together, being a community, being together, working together. That's how we get places. Be respectful, you know, I'm trying to build a nice community. We can all just come in, right? But I appreciate you. The few people that liked my video and that subscribed, you made my entire fucking month. I hope you know that. My entire fucking month was made because of that. I appreciate you so much. I hope this was good. Let me know any constructive criticism. And stay tuned. Stay tuned for the next one. I'm going to come out with the next layer here pretty soon. So thank you. I appreciate it. Check you next time.